Hi, I'm Lin.
And I'm Leo. Welcome back to Yoga with Lin and Leo.
And today is session 6 of our foundation course. So hopefully you're on your mat, ready to go.
And you'll need a little bit of equipment today. We've got a belt, a blanket, a bolster, and 2 foam pads that I'm sitting on. But if you haven't got that equipment, have a look in the description below and we'll give alternatives for those of you who don't have yoga equipment at home.
Okay, so all of our work today is floor work. So we're going to start with Supta Padanusthasana with the leg out to the side. So we're going to show you how to do this in a way which is going to give you a really good alignment and symmetry of the body. So lying down in a supine action. So this takes a little bit of time to get used to lying back in a precise way. If you find that the skin fibers in the back are a little bit caught or you feel uncomfortable, then lift the pelvis and move the tailbone towards the heels. And this is a temporary thing, just firstly to get used to that lengthening of the lower back, as you can see that Leo was showing you there. And then extend the legs. Now, as we've said in previous videos in our foundation course, it's really a nice way to work with your heels to a wall. So if you have got free wall space or some area that you can press your heels into, this will give you a grounded action too, which is really a nice way of working. So when you're in this position, we start off by bending the right leg and we're going to stretch it up to 90 degrees. Now, that sometimes for people is very challenging, particularly when you first start. If you have a lot of tightness in the hamstrings or in the front thighs and the leg is a little bit bent at that stage like this, then you have to learn to extend it, and you extend it by taking it a little bit out of the range of the 90 degrees. And learn how to pull up those kneecaps and thighs and then see gradually through time that you get this action. But today what we're doing is taking the leg out to the side, and this takes a little bit more management because this grounded leg, the leg that's on the floor, needs to ground down very strongly. So you've got to hit those thigh bones down and lengthen the back of the thigh. And then we're going to use a foam pad. Now the foam pad will just go to the side of the hip. I'm just placing it to the side of the hip. I know it might be difficult for some of you to see that. But when you take the foam pad to the side of the hip, it will actually encourage more of an opening in that side of the pelvis, but also it will stop you rolling completely. So if I just show you, when you take that leg out to the side, quite often what happens is all of this area comes this way. Now that's not the right way because, as we may have mentioned before, there's a meridian line that goes through the body. And it's really about balancing those scales. This has got to be weighted so this leg can actually go to the side. So gradually take it to the side. You can take the arm out to the side to give you a little bit more support and be in this position. And you just take it to where you can keep that control of that downward leg that's supporting you. And if you're pressing your heel into the wall, you'll get even more support, which will really help. And this will help to open your legs and to encourage those legs to become levers. And then once you're there, you can stay in this pose for 20-30 seconds and then come back out of the action when you're ready. So keeping grounded with that downward leg as you come back up. And then releasing the leg down. So be mindful how you release the leg down. See that there's no jerky actions and that you just extend the legs together. So they're in this position. And then when you take the foam pad, you'll be able to see maybe a little bit better here. It just rests to the side of the hip. And then bending your left leg and place the belt around. And again, if those of you have stiff hamstrings, don't give up on your first practice. You have to gradually open them, and you can do this by a lot of the actions in the standing poses. So do take a look at all of the videos in the foundation course but also our 13 days of yoga is really helpful, and also our 19 days of yoga will help as well. So extend, pulling up the kneecaps and thighs, extending all the way through to the belt. Now taking the belt into your left hand, and then see, can you take the leg out to the side? Yeah, so you try to keep that leg as strong as possible and as straight as possible, push into the belt strongly and keep this leg down. So we use the belt really to give us a little bit of extra space so we can get some of these actions in the pose. So you can see here I'm grounding down with Leo's thigh to make sure it goes down and the outer hip goes down very strongly. This is one of the very challenging actions. And once you're there, you can stay there again for 20-30 seconds. And then when you bring the leg up, that's really very important that you come up very slowly. So if we're going quite quickly, then do replay the video or actually memorize some of these actions and have a go. And then releasing the leg down. Okay, very good. Okay, so we're going to now roll to your right side. And we're coming for a really lovely action. It's a rotation, it's a twisting action on a bolster. So we've covered Bharadvajasna in our foundation course on a chair. We've also come into the classic pose, and now we're coming into a variation. This is another variation, so this is really a more passive way of working, and this is what we're working on in this sequence, is to work in a very passive way. So when you have the bolster in front of you, you have to see that you lift up so that you can lengthen and twist. So as you twist, some of you will find it be really difficult to turn the head as well as twisting. So if this is the case, if there's really a lot of tightness in the upper back, then you keep the head the same way as the knees. So don't overdo it, don't strain too much, and you're just in this position. Or if you're able to, then you will turn the head so that the head is facing away from the knee side, and you just let the spine have a few moments to completely weight down and release. So remember, when you release the body, you create a weight, and the weighted action is really important. To see that you ground and you root the body down so that you can start to unfold some of those muscle fibers, and that takes a little bit of time. So you can stay in this pose for a little bit longer if you're enjoying it, but we're going to come to the other side now. So coming up, so Leo's going to demonstrate on the other side. So please, if these timings are too quick for you, do actually slow down, stop the video, and just practice for a little bit longer in these poses. Because as I said, this sequencing is about bringing a passive approach to your practice. And getting that turn in action if you're able to, and then you just let the whole body fold into the bolster. So if you haven't got a bolster, then you can use a couple of pillows or a really well-rolled blanket or two. But it is worthwhile, of course, just having a bit of kit handy and just build it up gradually. This is a really beautiful pose, and it's really effective on the spine. It really helps those spinal muscles to start to relax and release. So you can take a few breaths, be aware of your breath in this twisted action, and just see that you relax and become weighted. Breathe through your nostrils if you're breathing, and concentrating on your breath, then do breathe through your nostrils. Okay, and again, if you want to stay here a little bit longer, because it is a really nice unwinding pose, unfolding pose, then do stay a little bit longer, but we're coming up out of the action. Okay, and then sitting up. So our next pose is a Virasana action. So we're going to show on 2 foam pads here. So some of you have seen this pose before, but if you're absolutely new to the site and this is your first class, then you need to sit a little bit higher. Now, some of you will be able to sit between your heels, no problem, but what we want to do is to get the right action on the shins and on the knees. Because quite often, if the calves start to fold in or the crunch up, then you'll find it will be quite a lot of pressure behind the knee. And also likewise, we find at the centre that a lot of people who come to yoga have very stiff ankles to start with. It's not an ongoing thing, it just takes a little bit of time to thaw out. So when you are in this position, you may find that the ankle is really up like this, and that's quite a normal occurrence that we find.
I'll just turn around so I can show that from the side.
Yeah, so you may need to have 3 or 4 foam pads underneath your buttocks to take the pressure off, and there's other ways you can actually work, but we will do a separate video for that. So we're coming into a Virasana action, gripping the foam pads with your feet, or if you have something similar, then grip the sides of the feet, and just make that adjustment on those calves as you go down into the pose. Draw the abdomen towards the spine and just be in this position. And once you're in this position, you just have to see that these, well, very particular, to see that these toes are pressing down onto the floor. So you can use your hands to help you to do that. And then once you've adjusted, made those adjustments, you can press the palm of the hand into the foot as much as possible. Press strongly, and as you press, you lift up through the centre and broaden across your collarbones and breathe. So a soft inhalation and exhalation for Virasana. Lift out of the pelvis, keep those shoulders rolling back and down, keep the chest lifted, keep the throat soft. Soft inhale, soft exhale. And again, you can actually stay in this pose just for a little bit longer, but remember when you kneel in these positions to start with, it takes a little bit of time to unfold the legs. So we're going to come out of this pose into Dandasana to straighten those legs to actually iron them out again. Because if you're not used to practicing in this way, then you will find that the legs need to stretch out again. Okay, stretching those legs out. And you can see that Leo is pulling the buttock flesh. This is something that we do on a regular basis to encourage that softness and broadness in the seated action. You're going to come for Sukasana now. We're coming for a Sukasana twist. So what happens quite often, again, when you first start yoga, it's very difficult to sit with your legs out in front of you, but also it's very difficult to sit with your legs crossed. So you sometimes need to go higher. So sit on either a couple of foam pads, a couple of blankets, or your bolster. You can see here, Leo's got the bolster. It's a nice way of working. So when you cross your legs, your thighs need to be lower than your hips. So you have to be in this position so that your thighs are lower than your hips. And sitting up nicely. Roll your shoulders back and down. So we're coming into a twisting action, which means to say we're taking the left hand to the right outer side of the thigh, and then the right hand back onto the bolster. You can see here that the bolster acts as a fulcrum. So you push the hand into the bolster and use that as a fulcrum to lift up through the centre of the body. The palm is to the outer side of the thigh, and you lift up through the centre. Lift up through the centre. Draw your abdomen towards the spine. Soft inhalation and exhalation. And then we release and we calm to the other side. So we're not staying very long, but remember the twisting action comes from that fulcrum of lifting up. You cannot twist on a collapsed spine. That's very, very difficult to do. Or it teaches the body bad habits. So pull on that outer palm and lift up. And the back palm holding onto the support and lifting up from there. And then just move back with that back shoulder as much as you can and bring the front shoulder forward. And then release it. Okay, so now we do one more time. We have one more round of this because we cross the legs the other way.
And just a pointer, if you don't have a bolster, you can always sit onto a couple of blankets and put a book or something behind you.
Yeah, yes, to put your hand onto something. So what we're saying is when you cross your legs here, I've got the foam pads there, I'll be sitting on something and putting my hand onto something else. So you can work in that way. So again, lifting up nicely and then turning to your right side and using your hands as a fulcrum to get that really nice lift and extension, opening through the center of the body and getting that complete extension through the center of the spine. So we're trying to iron out all of those difficulties and those stiffnesses by using the hands as a fulcrum to go up through the center of the body. And then release in and we come to the other side. So again, right hand, left outer thigh, and then lift up. Keep that broadness through the center of the body, keep the broadness across the collarbones, lift up nicely and extend. And then we're coming out of this action and straightening your legs out. So we're coming to a really lovely pose now. This is called Supta Padanusthasana. Now, some of you may not have a belt yet. I would really advise you that to purchase a belt. If nothing else, this will really be good for your leg lifts and also this next pose that we're going to do. So you're going to sit in front of your support. So if you haven't got a bolster, don't worry about it. You can use a couple of pillows or cushions, but it's really important that you have some support for your back. Now, when you're sitting in this position, you have the belt, and I'm going to place this around Leo's body like this, and it goes to the lower back, and then have the buckle so that you can pull it. So when you're here, you pull the belt, so you don't want the belt stuck somewhere, so you can tighten it. Now don't tighten it too much, because if you tighten it too much, you won't be able to move back. Now as you can see here, if there's difficulty in the hips, then we have a couple of foam pads and we just pop those there, and we just pop this here, because with this pose, what you want to do is just passively open, and if you are weighting your groins and they're not ready to weight down, then of course you're going to be miserable. So when you go back, lift the tailbone and move it towards the heels. Eventually will be a slightly different action to that, but in the very beginning we have to make sure that the back has length. And once it starts to become more pliable, then there's of course many different instructions for this pose. So as you go back, see that you keep that belt down towards the sacral area and then coming into this action. And this is Supta Padanusthasana, taking the arms out to the side. And remember, I've been saying that it's a passive practice, so this is a really beautiful way to finish your practice. In Supta Padanusthasana, just let the abdomen completely soften and engage with that relaxation process. So as you breathe through your nasal passage, and just let those thighs completely release. If they're supported, then that's very wise. If you have good flexibility and the thighs go down to the floor, then of course you have the floor as a support. But just close your eyes, soften your facial features, and breathe through your nasal passage. So you can stay here as long as you wish to. We are coming to the end of our video now, of our passive session in our foundation course. So we hope you've enjoyed practicing with us today, and if you like our channel, then please do press the like button or even subscribe. Namaste.